Hey everyone, my name is Abubakar Abdikadir. Today we'll be talking about driving AWS savings through visibility and automation. Just making sure we're in the right room. Just a little bit about myself. As I mentioned, my name is Abubakar Abdikadir. I work as a system reliability engineer at Thermo Fisher Scientific. If you don't know Thermo Fisher, we're a leading life science and pharmaceutical company. We produce over 75% of all drugs in America, and we have over 1 million different scientific instruments. So if you ever got sick, you probably use that Thermo Fisher product to get better. Besides that, as a passion, I'm also a filmmaker. So I've made short films as well as documentaries. I just got one completed recently. So if you want to talk about anything about filmmaking, we can do that as well in the end. But today, this is the agenda that I have for you. How do we drive AWS savings through two things? It's one, visibility, and two is automation. And I'll go in depth into both the areas. But first, I want to paint a picture for you guys. Who can see or who can imagine a scenario like this before? There's multiple AWS services. There's multiple cost centers. Nobody knows exactly what the value of those costs is. And when we are charging back to the teams, we just do it in a peanut butter style. So some teams, they get charged for services that they're not using. Other teams get charged for services they're overusing, but like at a discounted rate, so they're pretty happy. So that's the situation that we found ourselves in, and so we would needed to improve that. And the first way that we can improve that is understanding our costs and getting visibility into our costs. And the way that we did that is, first off, breaking apart our accounts, right? We did it based off of our business organization, how it's shaped. We have business units, different business, and we are pretty complex hierarchical structure that we do have. So we needed to break it apart into each of those business units. And within those business units, we use in AWS organizations, you can use a service control policy that can enforce tagging on those resources. So when those resources are, when new resources are being implemented, those resources have to be tagged. We have like 12 tags that need to be implemented before they can be deployed. And we have also a tagging policy for, let's say, for example, there's shared accounts. How do we understand exactly who's using those resources? Because it could be multiple teams. We have tagging policies in place, those same 12 tagging policies that make sure that new resources, when they're deployed, they can't be deployed without having those tagging in place. So that's for new resources that are being created. What about old resources that are already out there in the wild? You know, there's no tagging associated with them. I'm going to introduce a product that we're using right now that also helped us. But basically, it found tagging anomalies and it was able to match the tags for that. But Bonix, that's the name of it, the tool. But with that methodology of tagging, having tagging in place and enforced, we were able to go from less than 25% tagging compliance to over 92% tagging compliance with that effort alone. And what does that lead to? Well, we have cost visibility when teams understand exactly what those costs is. Also, this is another thing that we did. Before, it was just the finance team that at the end of the year was able to see that budget, that cost associated with the usage. But now we use one of the tools by Everest, it's called Optics, that allowed us to share that cost data with the engineering teams themselves. Because when we give that information to them, it helps cultivate a culture of responsibility. Now they understand exactly, this is the cost when I deploy this resource, this is my cost jumps up this much, you know, and it changes responsibility over to them as well. So they're also more cost conscious whenever they're making new engineering decisions that way. And this is what I meant. What I meant, clear cost allocation, when you have that in place, there is increased accountability. So you put that burden over to the engineering teams and makes it into a very healthy discussion. Whenever there's a business, engineering, and finance team, they get together, you can the engineering teams have their data as well as the finance team have their data to back it up and have that healthy conversation about usage, cost savings, optimization. It can be a more fruitful conversation rather than, why are you charging me this amount? I didn't use this amount. That doesn't really lead to much grounds on that capacity. So this is a much better way that we're doing it. So another thing is, this is a toothbrush, but I'm going to give you guys I have an analogy that I I have an analogy that I want to share with you guys all. Imagine someone, right, doesn't brush their teeth for one day. You probably wouldn't notice, right? What about they don't brush their teeth for a week? You probably will notice, but you wouldn't tell them. You're nice. You're a nice person. Imagine 1 year from now, you'll try your best to like stay away from them, and then what about 5 years from now? They're probably in that COVID era of isolation. Everybody's trying to stay away from them. So that's the same thing about cost, cloud hygiene, right? Cloud hygiene and cloud practice. We need to have a continuous practice of looking at our spend, making sure that it's optimized, and making sure that we're using products or services that are actually useful for us. Imagine this, Flexera report, right, that looks at the usage within the entire enterprise. 32% of all cloud spend is wasted. 32% of all cloud spend is wasted. This is billions and billions of dollars of waste, right? And we need to improve that. We do that by having a good cloud hygiene practice within our organizations that looks at exactly what are we using, why are we using it, and is this actually a good business value for our organizations. And another thing that I want to mention is once we solved the first problem about visibility, right? The teams now understand exactly what the cost is, but now we need to change those insights into actions, and we do that through automation. And the way that we do that is through another tool by Bodex, Everest. We work closely with them to get that automation, because a lot of the teams right now, especially that are working on optimization, they're always going to be smaller than the need that they're trying to fulfill. So we need to, supplement that with automation in place. Because how many of us, raise your hand if you want to do manual automation, cleanups? I don't see any hands, and unsurprisingly, yeah, that's expected. But with this automation operations, we have EC2 generation upgrades that it does for us. Looks at the latest versions of these servers. They're faster, cheaper, more efficient, right? It finds old snapshots, EBS volumes, and then cleans them up for us. And then idle resources as well. That's a big one. S3, right? EC2. Like there's another stat that says that 30 out of the biggest expense for most people is EC2, right? Servers. And out of those, the utilization for majority of them is 2%. So if you haven't looked at your account, check again. Make sure it's not 2%, right? Utilization. So we realize those unused EC2s, that we can stop them when we need to. And that's what we're trying to do. And as I mentioned, tagging anomalies, this tool allowed us to find those resources that are not tagged. It alerted to us, and then based off of where that resource is located, was able to find the proper tags associated to them, and allow us to be more tag and compliant. And this, as I mentioned, when we reduce waste, we improve our operational efficiency. We're able to, work in a more efficient environment, overall, which is a good thing, always a good thing. And if you haven't noticed by now, this is all encompassed within the FinOps framework, or the FinOps mindset, or the methodology. And if for anybody that doesn't know, FinOps is the practice of maximizing the cloud. This year, actually, they updated the description for it. It's now maximizing the value of the cloud and technologies, because they included data centers and SaaS. But I just came from the conference like last night in San Diego, the FinOps conference. But overall, we adopted this framework 2 years ago, where basically there's three parts in it. It's the inform, having that visibility and allocation, right? When we did that with our dashboards, with that ownership change to the engineering teams, optimize using autonomous operations, and then operate. That's the stage that we're trying to get to, where we can just hit one button and leave it as it is and just step back from it. We still right now are working towards that, because we need that business buy-in, because there's, of course, prod accounts that are a little bit sensitive to just hit that remediation automatically. So we need to get that mindset shifted within our organization before we can do that. But even if we do, this is still a cycle, as you can see. We need to continuously make it as a practice, because FinOps or optimization is not something that you can just do 1 quarter and then leave it and then come back to it next year, and then you'll still be at the point 0 again. So it's a continuous culture shift, cultural practice that we need to do. And That's what we were trying to that we're working towards. So I have 3 key takeaways for you guys. One is the number one is have visibility into your cost through tagging. You guys have a tagging policy in place within your organizations that tell you exactly what those costs is, and also is that cost shared across the entire organization, or is it only dedicated to the finance team? That's the first thing. The second thing is scale your savings with automation, right? The FinOps team is always going to be less than the need that they're trying to fulfill. So scale, and you're not going to have that many headcount within those teams initially, especially when they're starting out those optimization efforts. So scale it using automation. You can use robotics, as I mentioned, but there's many other different tools that you can also use. Terraform scripts that do those cleanups. And then finally, have a cultural shift or a cultural mindset shift within your organizations. It's not a one team that does all these efforts alone. It needs to be involved with the engineering teams, the finance teams, as well as the business teams. They all need to be involved. So how do we incorporate many other stakeholders into the conversation, and how can they also take action and have ownership and accountability to help drive these conversations? So those are my 3 takeaways for you guys. There's are my, if you want to discuss more, there's my LinkedIn and my email. But I'm happy to take any questions right now if you guys have it.